Welcome to the Be the Light Crown Edition podcast. I'm Hannah Frey, your host and pageant queen extraordinaire. Fun fact, while most people are resistant to change, I'm excited by it. So this podcast is designed to allow me to be the light for others. By sharing my experiences across countless topics where I demolished my fears, prejudice, expectations, and rebuilt brick by brick. My hope is I can encourage you to seek knowledge, implement change, and above all, trust in God. So let's get to it. It's time for some you time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Be the Light Crown Edition podcast. We are on our part 3 of 4 of our travel mini series. This has been so fun to record. As y'all know, traveling is just really near and dear to my heart from a mental health perspective. I think there's just very little that compares to exploring the world and exposing that to your kids as well. So today we're going to talk about another topic that comes up a lot in my DMs that folks kind of tend to unintentionally be a little snide about when it comes to how often my family travels, and that is affording travel. And I totally recognize that this could be a sensitive topic for some as well. And so I don't mean to at any point dictate or make others feel bad about their financial situation or make those feel lesser than because they can't provide the same types of trips. But I'm here to tell you it's not about going to Disney, because by the way, that was stupid expensive and I don't know if I would do it again. I'm just talking about what's within your realm of possibility, and there are lots of amazing free or next to free things that we can be doing. And also outside of that, there are ways that you can be planning and getting ahead of the costs associated with traveling. And so that's really what I want to focus on today. Okay? So we're going to dive right in. And of course, I always like to start off with kind of my experiences with affording travel. I'm definitely not shy about the fact that I didn't grow up from a wealthy family in any sense of the word. I had to put myself through college. I still have quite a bit of financial debt from that and have really had to kind of claw my way up. But at each point in my life, I have been able to in some way afford and prioritize travel, even when I was making $30,000 a year, okay, when I first came back from med school and was working at Verizon, okay? So just saying that it certainly can be for everyone. And I have had this conversation with even close friends of mine who kind of say that, well, we're saving now, we don't do anything now, but then when we retire, we're going to travel the world. I understand the thought process with that, but in my experience and what I am observing of folks who have that mentality and who are getting to that age is that health issues come up, the world's changing, their interests change, their physical abilities change, and it's just not the same. You might not get to do those things. You're not promised tomorrow. And I find that a lot of people that I know have lost loved ones unexpectedly, especially with, the recent pandemic. And so I would just say that, again, if it's possible, consider that making smaller repercussions now to be able to sprinkle in these trips, even if it's one every 2 years, okay, is likely going to give you a better quality of life than just hoping and praying that you make it to 65 and can retire, okay? That's not financial advice, but that is my point of view, and I said what I said, okay? So on that note, we're going to dive right into, today I have 5 tricks for affording travel and vacations, and we're going to save the best one for last because I'm kind of a tease. And so the first I want to kind of start with is booking in advance. And this kind of goes along the lines of another podcast I've done on travel where I talked about making the commitment to travel, deciding that this is when we're going and we're going to do it. In the spring of this year, 2023, I booked Skylar and I's trip to Costa Rica for our wedding anniversary for next fall, in exactly 1 year from now. So I booked it almost a year and a half out. In some cases, you can't book trips that far out. Sometimes it has to be exactly within a year. But we were able to get this 5-star, completely just beautiful, all-inclusive resort for over 50% off the usual rate per night. I want to say for 4 or 5 nights, it's $250 a night, which I can't even get a crappy hotel in DeSoto County sometimes for $200 a night, but this is going to be all alcohol and all food included as well. So if you can, book in advance, make that commitment to, okay, this is the trip we're taking, this is when we're going to take it. Eventually, once we get closer, we'll figure out childcare. In this situation for us, my mom has committed, which like thank her, to watching the kids for up to like a week every other year and using her PTO for that. So I knew that I could rely on her. And I did, of course, ask her opinion on the dates, and they're going to work out. So, because she also travels a lot. Wonder where I get it from. So that's what I would say is be aware of that. And within the U.S., you're probably going to be confined to a year, but like going internationally, you're probably going to be able to book up to a year and a half out, maybe even more. So that's just the norm of traveling internationally. And so, shoot your shot. Like also look at the cost so you can get an idea of what's normal. Look at the cost if you were to go in 1 month. Or in the August of this year is what I did compared to the August of the following year, and you'll know like, oh, I'm getting a good deal. Okay? So that's the first one, book in advance and save in advance. And then the next piece is something that we've started doing with more regularity and more commitment as well, is putting away a certain percentage or a certain whole number from your check each month. And it may be small. And it may require like a sacrifice. So an example for us is that we had a big financial thing come up in our family, and I was going to Orange Theory Fitness on an unlimited plan. Okay, it's like $170 a month. And so I cut back to the $110 a month plan and got back $60 in budget. Guys, $60 a month is more than sufficient to put back to start, gaining funds to take a trip. Like you've got $500, like within state or a few states over, like that covers gas, a hotel, and some food. Like you can get these things done, and maybe you save that for every 5 years you guys take a huge trip overseas, and but it's going to require that commitment of putting money back. So I would sit down and I'm hoping to do a financial mini series as well, so we'll talk more about how to accomplish this. But I would look at your finances with a microscope and determine like, okay, well, I'm doing a lot of shopping, or maybe there's a side gig that you can pick up. Like I work for my dad. I do some of his like financial stuff, and so I get a few extra $100 a month for that. And sometimes I use that to pay for like my pageantry stuff, but also it can help supplement vacations. So just think of those options as well. That's actually 2 for 1. Putting back money and also get a side job. So that's a freebie. So I would also say find ways to cut costs to prioritize bigger things. So for example, you can go to the grocery and you can pick up your groceries instead of going and like letting the aisles speak to you, which I've definitely done. And do that instead of going out to eat for dinner. Like you're going to save, so much. Also, whenever you're on those trips, okay, which I think was more of the point I was trying to make, and I'm realizing that now. Even while you're on those trips, you can decide that, okay, this is the big thing that we want to do, so maybe we're not going to do, these other things that cost a lot of money. So like go get groceries for lunch instead of going to eat out, and then choose just to eat out at a nice restaurant for dinner. Don't buy souvenirs. Usually a waste of time, or maybe there's like one souvenir that you're wanting and like you just prioritize that one, okay? Check a Groupon. That's another great way to like cut cost. You can also... prioritize the bigger things. So I'll give you an example for Skylar and I. So when we went to Vegas for our honeymoon, we knew that we wanted like one big excursion, so to speak. So we were either going to do a hot air balloon ride like over the Grand Canyon, which I've still never been in a hot air balloon. I really need to get that checked off my list. Or we were going to do, or Skylar was going to do the closed track fast car races, and they have like the Hurricanes and like the fancy whatever. It wasn't really my thing, but for him. So I gave him the option. I was like, which one do you want to do as like my gift to you, like almost like my wedding gift to him, right? And so it was like $400 or $500 for that excursion. And so we did that instead of gambling because we were there for a whole week. We were like, well, we could allocate $100 a day to gamble, or we could save all that up and do this one big excursion. Okay, so just find ways to prioritize within the vacation as well certain costs, and that's really going to help. All right, that was number 3. And then the next one for you is think non-conventional when it comes to saving costs. So some of my favorite examples are the non-traditional booking agencies. So like Turo for car rentals. When I went out to California for this last pageant with Rachel and I, we went to Disney. We saved so much money by looking for, initially when we had booked it, we were looking at the car rentals from the airport, and then we looked at Turo, and it was over half the amount to do a private. And I've used the service before. Super reliable. I used it when Shelby and I went out to Texas, because again, like the rental car from the place was super crazy. Also Airbnbs, and they have gotten a little more pricier, or Verbos as well. But sometimes, especially for weekly rates, or if you've got a larger group, 100% you're going to save a ton of money. Or if you're traveling with your kids and you're going to get 2 hotel rooms, like a shared room, just to like you have some space, look at an Airbnb. You're probably going to save money. Pro tip is, this works for both the rental car and the Airbnb. Just know that, my screen died. Just know that maybe you're only actually needing it for 5 days, but go ahead and look to see what the weekly rate is. It literally might be cheaper. Like, we did that for California. For Rachel and I, we booked the car rental for 1 full week, and we returned it almost a full day early. They're not going to penalize you, but we saved a couple $100 because, or maybe it was $100, because of the weekly rates were just lower. So that's my little golden nugget for you. Nanny shares are great. So, if you're going to go on vacation with friends, great example of this is my friend Jessica is going to come from Texas for Memphis in May next year. And she's bringing her kids, and we're going to share a nanny or a babysitter, whatever, to watch all up to 6 kids while we go to Memphis in May. And sharing that cost is a great way to kind of afford trips. Timeshare presentations, hit or miss. Like, we did do one in Vegas to get show tickets. Like, they're much more popular out there. It did suck up a little bit of our time. So if you're on a shorter trip, do not do it, because they'll tell you it's going to be 2 hours and you'll be there for 4. And it can be a little like just draining, but again, it is a way to save money, and they genuinely are going to give you the tickets or the upgrade or whatever they promised you. And there's a lot of negotiation at play there. So that's that. And then finally, which I kind of alluded to, but splitting costs with friends. So like an Airbnb split is just so much more affordable. Splitting groceries, splitting a car rental, splitting the gas if you guys are going to drive. So like our community group, we're all going to, for a girls' weekend in Mountain View or Mountain Home. I always forget which one it is. Arkansas coming up. And we're thinking about taking the camper. So I'm going to drive it so we can all hang out. But we're all going to split the cost of the gas, right? And so those are just ways in which you can keep costs down and go from there. Okay, so the very last tip I have for you, which has truly been such a blessing to our family, is credit card points, okay? Do not sleep on credit card points. And I know that a lot of the financial advice out there is don't get credit cards. Credit cards are bad. Sure. I have my fair share of credit card debt, getting out of it, getting back into credit card debt, what have you. I think they're a blessing whenever people need them. Obviously better than like losing your home or not being able to afford something that's really important. So I think if you are the type who can handle having credit cards and handle them responsibly, which most adults should be able to do, then this is a great option for you. We have a Southwest credit card and we have our Chase credit card. Those are the 2 major ones. We also have a Discover credit card, and we have those cards for different reasons. Discover has the rotating 5% cash back. So every quarter, it's a different category for cash back, and it's 5%. And there is a max, but we get back like $400 or $500 a year by maxing out those categories on things that we're already going to be buying, guys. It's not like I'm buying things we don't need to hit the points. Like, I'm already getting gas. I'm already getting groceries, okay? And I'm more than enough going to hit those numbers, those thresholds. We also have the Sam's gas card. So we get 5% cash back on gas at any gas station, not just the Sam's gas station, by the way. And that maxes out, I think, at $400 a year back, which, like, okay, great. But then we also get other perks at Sam's, so we like that one. And these are no-fee cards, which is really important to keep in mind. Our Chase card, we get like 3% back on dining, 5% cash back on any travel booked through the Chase portal, and then there's other ways to earn cash back, and then you can use those points and they're worth more for travel. So say I have about 5,000 points, it's like 1.5 times worth more money when I go to use it to book a hotel. So more often than not, I don't pay for hotels and I don't pay for rental cars because I have so many points coming in on that, and then our Southwest card. I don't pay for flights through Southwest either. It's all paid for by points. And so on things that we're already spending money on. And I'm going to share, so the resource for today is I'm actually going to share you an account where I have been learning a lot more about how to get better about maximizing points, because I mean, I'm good, but I'm not like an expert, and she is phenomenal. I love her account, and I've been learning a lot, and I actually just opened up my very first business credit card, so I'm really excited. You have to spend like, I think it was like $6,000 in the first 3 months. But again, I can put daycare on there and then pay it back. I can do a lot of ways in which I can reach that. It will not be hard. And then I get $800 in points for free travel. And that's literally going to pay for our flights to Costa Rica and then some. So just know that like there are so many ways to maximize what you're already doing in spending through credit card points. You can transfer the points to the Southwest card. You can pull points between, like if you and your spouse have a card, you can, for the Chase one specifically, I know that you can combine points and you can have a person that you transfer them to. So it's an amazing way if you're careful and you're smart and you kind of just do the research and understand how it works. And also the Chase travel cards also often provide protection, like travel insurance, travel protection, flight protection, rental car insurance. I mean, there's a lot of other perks that you kind of need to like read through the line. I think I also get like a $50 a year hotel credit. So there's just amazing ways to maximize that, and I want that for y'all. So that's my number one bit of advice. Okay, so I will share that account with you. That is the resource for today. We're going to go ahead and end in prayer. Dear God, thank you again so much for this platform and this opportunity to talk about ways in which I have helped support my mental health and my family's well-being through travel. And I know that while money is monetary and ultimately our salvation is in you, I do know that the stressors that finances can place on families. And my goal is to help alleviate that, Lord, and also encourage folks listening to just put their worries and their stress on you as we are called to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, thank you all so much, and don't forget to tune in next time to the last version of our travel miniseries, 4 out of 4.